Hi everyone, my name is Lilis Asakwa and I am the mother of my beautiful daughter Genesis. Before I found out I was pregnant, I was living with my mom, my eldest sister, and her three boys. I was just going to work, coming back home, living my best life. 3 months or nearly 4 months after I had separated from Genesis' dad, I decided to retake a pregnancy test that I had previously taken and it was negative. The reason that I wanted to retake the test is because I was doing this juicing diet and I saw the girls on YouTube losing a lot of weight and I was doing it and I wasn't losing any weight. So I jokingly told one of my friends, I hope there isn't a baby inside of me, and we laughed and she was like, but you should take the test. So I went and repeated the test and this time it was positive. I was shocked. I was in disbelief. It took me a moment. And then I left the house and went to my car to call her and tell her the shocking news. Um, After talking to her, I then gathered up courage to call her dad and tell him that I was pregnant. I felt disappointed in myself. Um, I felt scared. I didn't know how I was going to, talk to my family, especially my mom. I didn't know what her dad's reaction was going to be, being that we've been separated for this long. Um, there were a lot of things that went through my head. I immediately started thinking of a solution. Um, and I considered everything under the sun, including abortion. I considered abortion as a stronger option because, for one, even when I was with her dad, it was not a good situation. And then we had already been broken up for almost 4 months. I considered abortion as a stronger option because I was afraid of my mom, my family. From a cultural perspective, that's not really acceptable. I was afraid of the church because I was going to church. So when I say I was afraid of the church, I mean afraid of judgment, right? Um, I was not financially stable. I didn't think I could be a good mom. Um, um, I saw my mom go through a lot with raising us, and I see a lot of a lot of strong women around me, and I don't know what happened to the men. And I didn't want to be another strong woman raising children by myself. So I just told myself that I was going to have an abortion, and yeah, that was my plan. I didn't think I was capable of like truly loving someone because I've seen the sacrifices that the mothers that I'm around make, and I didn't know if I was capable of those. I didn't know if I was capable of loving. I didn't know if I was able to care for the child. I didn't know about financial situation. I didn't know about the support from her dad, and I just never pictured myself being the what society calls baby mama. So the day I found that I was pregnant was a Sunday, so I had to wait till Monday to do anything. But I was Googling a lot of abortion places, um, trying to do math. Um, when a woman finds out they are pregnant, they become mathematicians. So I was doing a lot of math, trying to figure out how many weeks I could be. Um, I found some places, scheduled appointment online. There was a place that was pretty close to my house. And I went there. To my surprise, they did the ultrasound and they said it was 18 weeks, right? And I was shocked, but I believed it because it's been that long since I left her dad and I wasn't, in another relationship or anything. Um, so they told me that they couldn't do the abortion there because I was too far gone for that facility. But they gave me a paper with a list of places that I could go to that would do the abortion for me. And so I went outside of the clinic before I went out, they asked if I wanted a picture of the baby, and I said no because I didn't want any memory of it. I went outside and I started calling the different places from the list they had given me that can do abortion when you're that far gone. And I scheduled like 3 other appointments just in case I go to another one and they said no. So I had to schedule 3 other places. I remember one of the places was in DC and another place all the way in New Jersey, but I was that determined that if I have to go out of state, then I will have to go out of state. Yeah. So that was how I made all those appointments. And then when I went back home, I started Googling to see if I could find a place that was cheaper because those places were really expensive. And in the process of trying to find a cheaper place, I came across a place called Rockville Women's Center. I went on their website and they said, we don't do abortion. And I'm like, so what do you do? So I just fill out this contact form that they had on there that I wanted to be contacted. They contacted me the same day and made an appointment for me to come in. And yeah, that's how I came across them. And then I went in there to talk with them about why I wanted to have an abortion. So the day I had my appointment with Rockville Women's Center, I was so reluctant to go because they've already told me they don't do abortion. So I didn't even know why I was going. But I had this strong feeling in my spirit to just go. I was bored at home anyway. I needed to move away from my mom and my sister before they find out that something was wrong. So it was an opportunity to go, to leave the house. So I drove from Baltimore to Rockville. When I first walked in, the scene in there, everywhere was just so calm. You know, they greeted me politely, the receptionist, then they took me inside when it was time. And I went into this room with one of the counselors that worked there. And she was basically just talking to me and asking me, you know, to write down the reasons why I wanted to have an abortion. I started writing them down and I started to feel like all of those reasons had nothing to do with me. It was more about my concern for other people's reaction. Another thing that she made me do was she gave me something that looked like a letter written by God. And it was basically saying that no matter how far we go astray, the only person that moves is us and not God. So even though I was not pregnant in a way that God, you know, would like or he prefers, he's not going to rebuke me. And the letter said that once we've gone astray, God is instead opening his arms. This is the moment where he wants us to get closer to him. But I wanted to pull away. So she gave me this letter that said, no matter how much I think that I have hurt God, God still loves me and he's still going to embrace me. So this is not the time to pull away from him. After that, she gave me a moment again to just reflect on the reason why I wanted to have abortion. When I first walked in there and she told me to write down the reasons why I wanted an abortion, I was thinking to myself, these people really love wasting their time because I'm very certain about what I'm going to do. So I don't see how this is going to change my mind. But when I wrote down all those reasons and I was like, wow, this is about my mom, my sister, my family, my this, the church, the dad, the father, you know, where do I come into play? But at that point, I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, but I'm still going to do it. And the next step from there was for me to do a urine test. If it's positive, then an ultrasound. So I did the urine test. It was positive. So I had to go do the ultrasound. While I was laying there, she started with the ultrasound. I remember my eyes being open as compared to the first place I went for the ultrasound. My eyes were shut the whole time. I didn't want any volume. I didn't want to hear anything. But this time my eyes were open. I could see my daughter on the monitor and I'm like, oh my God, it's a real baby. And she's like, yeah, it's a baby. And then she said, do you want to hear the heartbeat? And I said, yes. So I started hearing the heart beating. I could see her kicking, and I was like, oh, how come I can't feel the kicks? And she said, because she's still very young. But I was like, wow, it's a real baby. And once I heard her heart beating, at that moment it was like the sky can come down if it wants to. I want to keep my baby. I felt really connected to her. I felt like this is a real human being. It's not just blood, at least at that stage. And I told the lady, I said, I want to keep my baby. And she said, that's fine. We're going to print some pictures. She said, that's fine. We're going to print pictures. And then we go into another room to kind of talk. In that next room was when she explained the abortion process to me. They have like these little dolls that they use to make you picture what your baby looks like at each stage. And when I looked at mine, it was exactly like the sonogram. It's a real baby, and they explained the abortion process to me. And what I loved most was that they were not rebuking you or telling you if you have abortion, you're going to die, you're going to go to hell, all of those things. They were simply telling me what the different options were. If you insist on the abortion, that's fine, but understand what it is you're signing up for. This is the process. When they explained the process to me, because of the stage I was in, it sounded horrific, and I couldn't imagine doing that to a child. So in that moment, I decided that I was going to keep my baby. When I made up my mind to keep my daughter, they brought me a tray with rocks in them, and they told me to pick a rock that speaks the most to me in that moment. And I picked the rock that said hope. I picked hope because I was hoping that I was making the right decision to keep my daughter. I was hoping that I would be a good mom. I was hoping that her dad would be supportive. I was hoping, most importantly, that my mom would forgive me. And I was just overall hopeful that it was going to go well. After that, I left, and I called her dad to say that I was keeping the baby. I called my two friends who were aware from the time that I was pregnant that I was keeping my daughter. And then I went home, and now the next thing was to tell my mom. And I needed to tell her because I was going to be moving out, and the little support I was supporting around the house would have to cease. So I gathered up courage to tell my mom. But before I told my mom, I called my sister Anna. She's the one I follow directly. And in my family, when Anna is on your side, you don't need to be fearful of anything. So I called Anna first so she can be on my side. When I first called Anna, as soon as she said hello, I started crying. And she was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, I'm pregnant. And she said, what's wrong? Is something wrong with the baby? I said, no, be serious. I'm pregnant. She's like, so what's the problem? And in that moment, the fear kind of died down a little bit because she was very calming. So I spoke with Anna. I told her I was pregnant. I told her I initially wanted abortion. And before I could finish, she was like, that should never cross your mind. Why would you do that? And all of that. So I told her that I wanted to tell my mom, but I was scared. And she told me that when I'm ready to tell my mom, I should just call her on the phone and she can be there with me because she lived out of state. So the next day, my daughter's dad came, and I told my mom and my sister that I was pregnant. When I first said that, when I first told them somebody was coming to talk to them, they thought it was somebody that was coming to marry me. So he shows up and he came alone. So they were like, yeah, it's probably not. But we were sitting there. My mom offered him food. He said he won't eat. They offered him something to drink. He said he won't drink. And my mom is saying, then you can leave. If you don't want to eat, you don't want to drink. And then he said, okay, he would drink something. So my mom gave him something to drink. After that, we're like, okay, let's say this thing and get it over with. I started and I told my mom, I said that we are here because we wanted to let her know that I was pregnant. My mom was quiet, like really quiet. My sister Vera was the one who was happy. She jumped, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm serious, I'm not joking. And she jumped, she hugged me, and we fell on the floor. We fell off the chair. And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think that she thought that the next thing would be, because I'm pregnant, we're getting married. So she was so happy. And then because of Vera's reaction, I believe my mom couldn't come from all of that happiness and then start yelling at me. So my mom was just quiet for like 2-3 minutes straight. She didn't say a word. When my mom did start speaking, when she gathered up herself, the first thing that my mom said was, unless you had previously spoken to my daughter about marriage, I don't want you to marry her. She said, I don't want you to marry her because she's pregnant. I'll make sure you guys co-parent together, but don't get married because of the pregnancy. And that was really shocking to me, because I picture my mom as the typical African mom. So I was expecting maybe a slap or something. But that was the first thing that my mom said. And then my mom said, here I'm going to be a mother to both you guys, speaking to my daughter's dad and things like that, because he has stated he didn't have family here. So my mom is saying, you're part of our family, marriage or no marriage, because you guys are going to have this baby. So we are here to support you guys. When we walked out of there, when I went to send him to his car, I told him that's not my mom, because he was like, oh, that thing was so easy. I said, that's not my mom. That's not my mom. That's the Holy Spirit talking through her. After that, I came back in the house, and I was just hoping my mom would yell at me, beat me, do something, but she was being too calm and too quiet. I was walking around the house like I'm walking on eggshells. I was terrified because I didn't know when it was going to hit her that this was real. The very next day, in my mom's disappointment, she went to the grocery store, bought a bunch of like green leafy vegetables, eggs, and all of those things, because from childhood I'd always had iron deficiency. So she went and bought all those things because it will be more prominent now that I'm pregnant. And I saw the love that my mom has for me in that moment, but it made me feel so sad that, I disappointed her in that way. After that, for like 2 weeks, my mom didn't yell at me. She didn't do anything, and it was killing me on the inside. Eventually, after 2 weeks, she sent my nephew to call me to come to the living room, that she wants to talk to me. And I was like, here we go. I came, we sat at the table, and we started talking. And my mom said, to tell you the truth, I'm very disappointed in you. When my mom said, I'm disappointed in you, I heard you are a disappointment. And maybe I heard you are a disappointment because perhaps I already felt like I was. She went on to talk to me about other things. She said that she had, a lot of hope in me, and she never thought that, I was going to, have a child out of wedlock. It was a very hard conversation to have with my mom. And in that moment, I was being very defensive. Like, I was just very straight-faced. In my mind, I'm like, first of all, I'm 25. Second of all, I was counting things that qualified me or make it okay that I'm pregnant. Um, yeah. After that, I was home for maybe another 2 weeks, which felt really long. Um, but I eventually moved out. I moved into my own place, and it was just 10 minutes from my mom's house. I started going for prenatal care. Um, as time went on, my stomach started showing more. And when people would say congratulations, I would think they are mocking me. I don't know why, but it was in my head that it was not real, genuine congratulations. I started going for doctor's appointments. When I would get there, everybody I saw, they had either a boyfriend or a husband by them, but I always went alone. I went alone to all of my appointments. So driving to my appointment, I'm crying. Driving back, I'm crying. Um, at the appointment, they always did like mental health screening to screen for depression or any of those things. And when I read the paper, everything would be a yes, but I would put no just because I didn't want them to think maybe I had a fear that they would think I'm not mentally capable of keeping my daughter. So I didn't want to accept that I was going through some type of depression. Um, Following that, um, there was a song called I'm No Longer a Slave to Fear. I came across that song and I played that song every single day for the rest of my pregnancy. I played that song every single day. And every single time I played it, it was like the first time. I would have the same reaction, the same crying and all of that. Um, After that, I went for the ultrasound, that the one where they could do the gender reveal, but they wrote it on paper and they gave it to me. I went to one of my friend's house at the time. She lived in Norfolk, Virginia, and I drove all the way there. We went and did a pregnancy shoot. She took the pictures for me, and she had me she had me close my eyes, because when I got to her house, I gave her the envelope from the hospital, and she looked and she saw the gender of the baby. So she filled up a balloon with confetti, and when we went and took the picture, she blew up the balloon. And then she had my eyes, she blindfolded me with and then she gave me the balloon, and they asked me to poke it, right? And then when I poked it, and I saw pink confetti, and then that's how I knew she was a girl. In that moment, I don't know, my entire pregnancy I didn't really care what I was carrying. I knew it was going to be a boy or a girl, but there was something about finding out that she was a girl that just lifted the burden off of me. And I was so excited. And from that moment, I felt like the shame that I have felt the entire time, I felt like that shame just disappeared. The burden was lifted. And for the first time, this entire nearly 9 months, that was the first time that I felt proud to be pregnant. And that still remains the proudest moments of my entire pregnancy. Um, Before knowing what the gender was going to be, I already had a name in my mind for her. Uh, in that moment when the confetti came and I opened my eyes, it was all pink, and I was so happy. I was crying. I remember my friend was hugging me, and then I just said I was gonna name her Genesis. The reason that I decided to name her Genesis, it's biblical, right? Genesis is the beginning, and I felt like she was the beginning of my new life. She was the beginning of um, a better version of myself. She was the beginning of me being serious with life, being mature, being prayerful, starting a real genuine relationship with God, and not just going to church because it's Sunday or my mom wants me to go to church. I named her Genesis because I was just filled with that hope that I picked in the beginning, that she was going to bring very good things to me. She may not have come in a conventional way or the way that, I would have liked. But, she was a surprise to me, but never a surprise to God. So I chose that name intentionally. And even now that she's growing up, I tell her, don't let anybody call you Gigi, Jen. Your name is Genesis. So they don't wash down her name. So on January 9, 2020, my water broke. I went to the hospital. To the glory of God, my daughter was born. My baby girl was born. 7 pounds, 6 ounces, healthy mom, healthy child. Um, that moment was shocking for me. Again, I was like, oh my, when she first came out, she started crying. I was like, oh my God, it's a real baby. And the doctor turned around like, what did you think you were carrying? It was a really, really beautiful moment for me. In that moment, I was in pain and everything, but it was a life-changing moment for me. After delivery, my sister was there, Anna was there, Vera came. Right after that, her dad was there. Right after that, my mom came. Some of her friends came, but this was during COVID, so they were limiting visitors, so a couple had to leave for a couple more to come in. I just kept listening to a lot of worship music when I went from labor and delivery to mother baby. And we were there for like 48 hours and we were being discharged. Right before we got discharged, there was something that had happened and I was getting really emotional and I couldn't cry in the room because I didn't want my sister to know that something was wrong. I didn't want them to worry about me. I wanted to put on this persona that I have everything under control. So I left the room. I told her I was going to ask the nurse something. And I got to the nursing station and I remember her name was Elaine. And I saw her and she said, oh, hi, sweetie, is everything okay? I just started crying under all those cameras at the nursing station. And immediately she got up. She took me to the staff lounge and I didn't even tell her anything. She just started telling me her story. She had a similar story when she was younger. And she told me, she said, you see that worship song that I've heard you listen to since you came in here? That's what's going to get you through. God is who is going to get you through. It doesn't matter who comes and who goes, who stays, just hold on to God. And she said God was the one that got her through. And now she went from having nothing to having a whole career and everything, her daughter, so getting married and all of those things. So she was just telling me, without me even telling her what the issue was, she was just like, everything is going to be okay. And from that moment, I regained some strength. And I really saw how passionate some people really are with their jobs, So I left from there, I gathered myself, and I went back into the room. After some time, we got discharged. I couldn't believe those people were sending me home with a whole baby. But we went home, and after that, it was okay for a moment. I was adjusting. My family was right there. My mom, my sister. Before you know it, my out-of-state family, my brothers, my cousins, everybody was flying into Maryland. So I was very much supported by my family. So we are home. I'm adjusting. We are home. I'm adjusting to a lot of things. I'm adjusting to being a new mom, a single parent. And it was not easy. I went back to work before my daughter turned 3 weeks. That's how much financially I needed to work. So I went back to work. My family, my mom and my sister, who lived 10 minutes away from me, they were helping me to watch her. After some time, no matter how much I was working, I just could not catch up financially in paying rent, paying my car, paying all these things. I started using up my savings, started using up um, credit cards, got into a lot of debt, paying rent late. Um, I remember a particular day I came home and I saw a big red paper at my door, and I opened it up and they would write delinquent rent or things like that. You have this number of days to pay. Um, was not able to meet up, and then the next thing is that they took me to court for eviction, and those things still play in my mind sometimes, where you come home with a 5-month-old baby when she was still in that car seat that you carry with you. And every time I leave the house and I'm coming back with her, I have like serious anxiety because I think there's going to be something at my door. Whenever somebody said they were coming to visit me, I have to check my door often and make sure they don't come and see that letter at my door, because they didn't put it in an envelope. They just tape it to your door. But in all of those things, to the glory of God, I overcame. I think this season of my life really showed me what people mean when they say God's grace is sufficient, right? Before, it is just something people say, but I got to really experience it, where whether there was rent paid or not paid, I woke up every morning 5 on the dot. I will pray, I will get ready, take my daughter, drop her, go to work, come back in the evening. Exactly 8:50, I start shutting down everything in my house, because 9 o'clock was my prayer time. Sometimes I'll carry her with me in my closet to pray. And I was consistent, and I really saw God's hand in my life in that season. There were times where I felt like, God told me if I kept this child, He was going to supply all my needs. And immediately in my spirit, it was like, if you don't have it, it's not a need. He said He'll provide your needs, not your wants. So I struggled through that period, but I'm grateful because there was never a day where my daughter didn't have a diaper, or never a day where we didn't eat. We struggled to pay rent, but it got paid. We never had to live in our car or any of those crazy things. So I'm still grateful to God. Life doesn't always go as planned, but by the mercies of God, everything is bound to work together for my good. And I truly believe that this experience has really impacted who I became, especially my spiritual walk with God. To the glory of God, after some time, I started walking my way out of debt. My daughter is older now. The hardest days have gone. There's a thing my pastor says. He said, you will never know a better yesterday. So the days that seem that bad, they are gone. It only gets better from here. So, yeah. I am grateful to God for where I am today, with everything that I went through, dropping out of school, financial difficulties. But by the grace of God, I overcame. And I just want to use this opportunity to thank Rockville Women's Center. I have since maintained a half a decade relationship with Rockville Women's Center. I've been to some of their conferences to share my story there. And like I shared in October, it's very important to let people know the impact that they are creating, because it's not every day you want to wake up and show up to your job, but once you know how showing up impacts other people, you might get some motivation. So I'm really grateful to Rockville Women's Center. And if you all were ever doubtful if what you're doing matters, I want you to know that it does. If it wasn't for God linking me to you guys, maybe my daughter wouldn't be here. So I'm truly grateful. I'm also really grateful to my mom and my sisters, my family as a whole, but especially my mom and my sisters, for really stepping in and helping me so much with my daughter. I believe that my family is the reason why I didn't really feel too much of the weight or the aloneness that comes with single parenting, because they were really, really there for me. The financial issues I had is because I was trying to play strong and figure it out on my own. I didn't want them to feel bad or feel like, this one really got lost. I wanted to still show up as the lilies they knew before. But I'm really grateful to my mom, Anna, Vera, Promise, Clinton, everybody, my friends who are around me. It means so much when you're going through a lot and you just get a text where somebody says, "Hey Lilies, how are you? How is Genesis doing?" It means a lot. When it's my daughter's birthday, I remember her last birthday, her third birthday, I created a registry. Under 24 hours, everything was gone. I didn't even know. A friend called me saying, "Hey, I wanted to get something for Genesis for her birthday, but there's nothing else. Can you add more things?" And I'm like, "What? That's crazy. That was less than 24 hours ago." So I really, really appreciate all the love and support that I've gotten. Even in church, I shared my testimony in a Pentecostal church. There were two pastors sitting right there, ministers, and nobody sees the mic from me. They let me speak. And when I was done, the whole church was standing up. So much support. I think that the best way to preach the gospel is we have to come from a place of love and not a place of judgment. And it's the love that I received that pushed me to keep my daughter. Because before it was, "Oh, what if something happens to you? What if you die? What if you never you never have a baby again?" And I was willing to deal with whatever the consequences were going to be. But when I started encountering those that were coming from a place of love, telling me God loves you either way, God will help you figure it out either way, I was able to keep my daughter. And I'm truly, truly grateful. Where I am now, by the grace of God, my daughter is 4 years old. I'm back in school. I got married, and life is good. I love my daughter so, so much. And I tell her every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't tell Genesis that I love her. And I hope that when she grows up and hears this story, because I know she will, I want her to know that the attempt at abortion was not a lack or absence of love. It was more from a place of fear. And once God helped me to overcome the fear, I was able to keep her. And I love her more than anything. Like, I love her so much. She has helped me to grow, to mature, to start thinking. I have like strength that comes from nowhere. When you become a mom, the strength comes from nowhere. I could be so tired. Right now I work 15-hour shifts. It's supposed to be 12, but being in nursing, it gets longer. But when I come home, this super strength that comes from somewhere. She has to shower, she has to eat, we have to read. Even right now, every night that she's with me, I pray with her. In the morning, I pray with her. I make her repeat the prayer. I try to instill like confidence in her. Let her know that, she's loved, she is blessed. She was unplanned, but she's not a mistake. She has really helped me so much. I remember one of my pastors told me, he said, no matter what you went through in your pregnancy and the first couple of years with your daughter, when life gets hard, you will look at her and she will give you 1,000 reasons to smile. And I truly believe that and hold that dear to my heart. I remember it was March 2020 when my daughter was 2 months old. That's the moment where I made the decision to truly leave her dad and just try to see how we can co-parent. So I left her dad when she was just 2 months old, and it was hard. And I made that decision. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want people's opinion to make me change how I felt, because people can only talk about, they don't know how you're really feeling on the inside. I had people that always told me, "So what's next? What's next? What are you guys doing?" Referring to marriage. And I had an auntie tell me, you've already had a child, you guys should just get married. It doesn't matter, nobody's perfect, just stay there, because once you've, especially you as a woman, once you've had a child, your chances of getting married are very few. So, and sometimes they try to make me feel guilty by saying, you know, you're how they put it, you're denying your child the opportunity to grow up with both of her parents. I didn't see it like that. I saw it as, it's better that she grows up in two separate healthy households than grow up in one toxic one. um, and that was the reason why I stood my grounds on walking away. So, you know, she has a relationship with her dad, she has a relationship with her mom, and I think she'll be okay. She's doing pretty good. The only thing is now Genesis is getting to the age where she asks a lot of questions. So my prayers lately has just been, God help me to always instill the right things in her. Um, Give me wisdom with raising her, you know, and telling her the right things, empowering her and making sure she doesn't really feel that vacuum of, you know, because she starts asking, Mom, why can't you come to daddy's house? Why can't daddy come here? You know, she asks me those type of things. So I just continue to pray for the wisdom, for God to guide me, the Holy Spirit to help me with answering some of these questions, because the answers matter. But for now, she's doing good. So yeah, she'll be okay. She's good. Yep, that's it. Happy Mother's Day again.